Two words sum up this episode of Lucas Oil on the Edge. Hammer down. It's the ultimate 4x4 race, King of the Hammers. Drivers have been waiting all year long to tackle the grueling California desert, and the time has come to crown the King of the Hammers champion. It's only on OTE.
Got it tacked up, and if you get too close, you're getting cracked up. Stone cold when I roll, coming out of the hole. Get back, cause I'm out of control. I'm on the edge.
It's time to go racing here at Lucas Oil on the Edge. Ken Stout and Brian Olson ready to call all the action for you from the Griffin Radiator King of the Hammers Ultimate Desert Race, presented by Torchmate. We're in Johnson Valley, California. This is a unique desert race, if you will, as it combines a couple of different disciplines, both desert racing and rock crawling.
Yeah, Ken, it brings it all to the table, and I'll tell you, you take the desert racing in the flats and climbing the rocks, you got to build a wild combination, and you'll see a lot of those here today, and I mean wild.
Let's get it down to Rob Club.
Well, the rigs are rolling out to kick off the 2011 King of the Hammers. You want to build one of these rigs and come out and race? It's pretty much that simple. The rules are very lax. Unlimited size, unlimited weight. Unlimited size of the tires. You can run any kind of fuel. Commercial gas, aviation gas, propane, no nitro, of course, no alcohol, methanol. But you have to have a lot of safety items. They're very stringent on the rules when it comes to safety. You have to have a first aid kit on board. You have to have a fire extinguisher on board. You have to carry a 13-gallon or bigger trash can in case you roll over and contaminate the soil. You got to pick that back up. And my favorite thing that you need to have on these rigs here today is a very loud horn. When they come by, if they have trouble, they'll blow that horn, and people will come out, roll you back over, and you can continue on. The 2011 King of the Hammers is going to be fun, and these rigs are pretty cool to watch.
To win this one, you have to run 2 laps, and it is 60 miles to complete one. One of the competitors inside is also a short course off-road racing competitor, and Rob's with him.
About 30 degrees outside as the sun comes up on Johnson Valley, California. It means one thing, it's time to go racing. The 5th annual King of the Hammers, and your pole sitter, Mr. Greg Adler, Pro 2 driver with the Lucas Oil Off-Road Racing Series. You got a nice draw. What's the strategy here at the King this year?
You know what, we did get a great draw, and we're just going to try to run our pace. First lap, try to survive, keep the car in one piece, keep forward momentum going, and there'll be some guys that'll be chasing us down, but we'd like to keep this thing out in front and come around lap 1 nice and clean, and then really race hard on lap 2. This is a survival race, and the track's tough, the rocks are incredible. Just doesn't even seem like there's a place to go, but yet these cars crawl up it, so looking forward to a great race.
Greg Adler, the number 210, will start alongside Tracy Jordan. Kicked off the year 2011 in style. He won the Monster Jam Pro Light race in Anaheim, California.
And that montage brought to you by Torchmate. They have staggered starts here, but they are starting them 2 at a time. So that right off the bat creates a sense of urgency. Of course, the competitors out here feel like they're in a race and not just against the clock, although that is exactly what they're racing, is the clock. But when you have somebody beside you, you typically take a few more chances.
Oh, yeah, you want to get to wherever you're going ahead of the next guy. Very similar in nature to a drag race. The wild part about this, as Rob mentioned in the very first part of the show, is there are no rules when it comes to engine and driveline accommodations, and you'll see a lot of them. And you can tell by listening to that montage that there are V6s and there are V8s, and in most cases, obviously it's the choice of the drivers and the crew members, but you just gotta wonder, is lighter better? Is heavier better? What's the combination? Here's the toughest part of the track right here. We'll find out.
That is Shannon Campbell, of course, Monster Energy backed machine, a spectacular piece of equipment that would cost you a big chunk of change. Right off the bat, take a look at the King shocks that are on the front of that one. The bypasses on there, double, triples. I mean, these guys do a lot of different stuff with the shock absorbers, and of course there's a lot of wheel travel, and that's exactly what they need. But then the shocks have to be able to accommodate both the short stuff and then of course the big stuff. So there's a lot of technology there. There's also a sign of what Rob had talked about before. You can hear the horn blowing. That's to let the other competitor know you're getting ready to make a pass.
Yeah, not only to pass a competitor, but if you get in a tough spot like this, you can honk that horn as well.
We've got more great On the Edge racing coming your way. Don't go anywhere.
This Lucas Oil On the Edge telecast is being brought to you by Lucas Oil, made in America, sold to the world. General Tire, anywhere is possible. Griffin Radiators, if you can drive it, we can cool it.
Welcome back to Lucas Oil On the Edge. We only have a few miles completed out of the 120 that the drivers need to click off in order to finish this race. Rob Klepper got out into the pits yesterday and asked a lot of drivers what the King of the Hammers race meant to them. This is more than an ordinary race to each driver. Let's see what they had to say.
It's the biggest, baddest rock race in the world.
Well, King of the Hammers is kind of like the Super Bowl of off-roading. I mean, it's just such a crazy event. It is the desert racing, it's rock crawling, it's technical, obstacles. It's massive, and it's just so difficult. You have 100 very capable competitors out there, and only one guy has a chance to win it.
There's desert guys out here, there's rock crawling guys out here, and there's people out here that's never been out here before.
Hardest one-day off-road race around. It's the most brutal off-road race in the world. It's like the Baja 1000 rock crawling.
King of the Hammers is just pure endurance and teamwork. If you don't have a good team backing you out here, it just isn't going to happen.
Those are some great descriptions of the competition out here today. And now let's take a look at one of the toughest areas on the course. It's called Devil's Slide. And as you can see, it is tight and narrow. One mistake can cost you the race.
Looks like an LA County freeway magnified by a rock slide for the most part. It is tough to get through.
And it sounded like the New Jersey Turnpike with everybody blowing horns. So,
where are you going to go to get out of the way right now? But this indeed called Devil's Slide, and very much so aptly named, because take a look at this thing. And again, you go back to the shock description you had earlier. For the most part, the largest part of this course is flat desert. But when you need those shocks and you need those suspension parts, like we do right here, like your leader's got, and the low air pressure, you need it in a bad way. That was a flat tire right there.
Yeah, I was going to say that right front definitely had some low air, maybe no air. Jason Shearer out front, and this, of course, a high-speed area. They stand on the throttle here, big-time speed, and, it's difficult to get to the rock crawling part. Don't think that this is any easier, because this is a game of letting it all hang out. It's a game of nerves, to say the least.
And another thing you got to remember is, it did start in the morning at some 30 degrees, but this baby goes a long time. When you figure 2 60-lap rounds of this thing, you're into the middle and the hot side of the day, and you're in the desert at the end of the day.
Another look at Jason Shearer, and we saw before that Shannon Campbell now has a right front flat as well, and they'll try to navigate through this and get to an area where he can stop and then make a change. Here's a look at Greg Adler and the four-wheel parts machine. The four-wheel parts machine, 55 stores across this country, and one of the, if not the, most popular retailer for aftermarket parts and pieces to go have fun like this with your stock Jeep. If you want to turn it into something, or your truck, those guys can get you hooked up, to say the least.
Spider Tracks is another great company, an off-road company as well. And take a look at some of these drivers. The approach you have to take here is not one of speed, as this baby high centers right on the differential housing. And then do exactly what you got to do. Pop that thing in reverse, try to find another spot. If you try to fly through this thing, it's not going to work. You got to ease your way through, take your time, and then you'll get yourself back in the proper ground.
Well, you can see right there, one of the competitors checks up and pretty much says to Shannon Campbell, why don't you go first?
I will follow you through this, and we'll see how things work out for you, and make necessary changes from there. This is definitely no easy task. However, it is solid ground here.
The King of the Hammers promised to be grueling and intense, and it has delivered so far on all counts. Drivers are coming across the start-finish line and will begin their second lap when we come back. We're going into lap 2 with the King of the Hammers race, and it's a tight one. There are 60 more miles to go, and there are a number of drivers in contention for the win.
This year at King of the Hammers, you see drivers from all different types of motorsports, short course off-road racers, desert racers, rock crawlers, and rock racers. Tracy Jordan, multi-time champion rock crawler. You bring that type of motorsports background to the King of the Hammers. How does that help you here?
God, it helps you a ton. I still believe it's one in the rocks. That first 60 miles when we were done, I mean, it just beat you to death. First 30 miles is all desert, and I was thinking it might possibly be one in the desert. And by the time we hit the rocks, that last 30 miles, there's just no way. It's still going to be one in the rocks.
How do you set up your rig? I mean, is it more set up for the rocks? Is it more set up for the desert? You see a lot of these rigs out here kind of got crazy setups on them.
Yeah, this is still primarily a rock crawler. It's a really lightweight car, but I think we're going to take our time a little bit more. We're going to hammer down trying to get to the rocks. Outer Limits is the first rock trail. We want to get there, you know, in the top 10 and then work our way through the rocks. I think we can get by, you know, 3 or 4 guys in the rocks.
Eyes of experience will certainly help him get through it quicker than everybody else. Gary Ferravante, though, covered lap number 1 quicker than everybody else, 2 hours, 47 minutes. Shear in second, and then Shannon Campbell rounds out the top 3. Greg Adler down there in 5th place as he hangs on into the top 5. Lap 2 begins, and let's take you to the Outer Limits. We heard him speaking of it just a moment ago. And again, you can see this is exactly where it really separates a lot of the machines. And yeah, use your head, go around as much of that stuff as you possibly can.
All depends on your direction of travel, so to speak. And you'll also notice that we're watching right here, and some machines have just a driver, while you look at the machine right behind the Monster Energy machine that has a driver and a co-driver, which, by the way, will also be trying to help you manipulate those rocks, but in this case, had 2 trucks go around them.
Tony Pellegrino currently in 4th place, and another great look at this equipment. And these things have a lot of technology inside of them. Tracy Jordan as well. Look at the rear steer on that. They can also operate the brakes individually to help them make turns around obstacles. It is really cool stuff, especially if you take a look inside. They have a lot of options. There's a lot of technology. And then, of course, there's good old horsepower if you want to get out in the rough stuff and make a pass on somebody.
And that's what you need when you're out in the open like this, man. You need the power, baby.
And in comes Shannon Campbell. Campbell was telling his crew over the radio just prior to coming in that he has some guys on his bumper. He said, I need a new left front tire. I need a bottle of water. I want you guys to check out the drive line. And it looks like they have got this thing buttoned up. Campbell's going to get dropped down courtesy of the big crane, and he should head out back to the race course.
And pretty cool there, you can see the lift, because it's very difficult, first of all, to use a jack that is high enough to even get up to the rig, of course, and get it up in the air. Second of all, you're trying to jack something up that's very heavy in the dirt. So their way around is to use a strap and a crane.
Combine that all with the fact that the shock travel itself can go as much as 20 inches or more in some cases. And it is very, very hard to change a tire. So you just flip that strap under there, grab it at the lower control arm, lift it up, and change the wheel and tire, and you are back on the road once again.
We love to hear from our fans. Go to Facebook.com and become a fan of Lucas Oil on the Edge. Then post your comments about this Lucas Oil on the Edge episode. Welcome back to Lucas Oil on the Edge. We've been looking at this unforgiving terrain all day, and I think the King of the Hammers promoters had a little fun with it by naming some of the key spots in the course. Some of our favorites include Chocolate Thunder, Aftershock, the Devil's Slide, and Outer Limits. Let's get back to the action.
All right, let's talk about a different location on this track. It's called Jackhammer Canyon, another very difficult place to get through. Take a look at the rocks and the boulders in here. Any number of them can ruin your day in a moment's notice.
And just about to ruin some right here. Again, the approach that you take is very, very crucial, very critical. I think it's pretty cool. You got a great big group of rocks, and you got a big plaque, and it's named after Jackhammer, you know?
Jason Schur in first place, but now is in trouble. You can see he actually has the winch tied down to the front as well, so he's trying to get through that obstacle. Shannon Campbell currently in second place and has rolled right up there as well, so it looks like Campbell has closed in on the leader. Now keep in mind, Campbell is by himself. Most of the other competitors have somebody to help them just in case they get in trouble like this. But Shannon Campbell does not.
And listen to the fans. He's obviously one of the crowd favorites.
And that's another way to get it done right there.
I said earlier you wouldn't hear that very often, but look at this.
This is a pass for the lead right here, ladies and gentlemen.
They are actually still unhooking the other machine, and it's still not unhooked, and there goes Campbell. And again, listen to that crowd. Obviously one of the most popular areas for the crowd to gather is right here.
And of course, to win this event is second to none. We heard these competitors earlier talking about it. I mean, everything has to go right. There's a million things that can keep you from winning this thing, but there's only one way to win it. And it is so difficult. So Shannon Campbell right now in the catbird seat.
That's exactly where he wants to be as we take a look at Tony Pellegrino. He's currently running the number 4 spot.
The machines that we'll see racing here at the King of the Hammers are truly custom. The Torchmate Racing team with JT Taylor behind the wheel have truly developed a very custom machine, JT. This number 13 is pretty bad to the bone. What are some of the features that you guys made in-house to make this machine so special?
One of the coolest things about this new car that the crew at Torchmate put together and built in-house and did a lot of the work on our 2x2 and 2x4 plasma tables is the front end, the front twin traction beam. It's a new design that we took from Ford and made it better. Moved the pumpkin over to the right side, made it all out of chromoly. It was done on SolidWorks, tested there, then put together in mild steel, tested that way, and then taken all back apart, cut on our tables, and assembled in 4130 chromoly. We had 5 guys working on it solid, and we worked several straight through nights, so just thousands and thousands of man hours, and cubic dollars thrown at it too, so it was a lot of work.
Yeah, not uncommon to find these things running in the $250,000 to $350,000 to get one. Let's go back down to Rob, who's at Spooners Canyon.
Well, guys, when we look at this King of the Hammers course here for 2011, a few changes. One thing that is new to the course, a trail that was blazed for the first time back on New Year's Eve of 2008. It's called Spooners Canyon. Now, the story there is 2 off-roaders looking for another trail actually got lost and broke down. Fortunately, they were rescued the next day. The trail gets its name, pretty funny, because the pair kept warm overnight by spooning together in sub-freezing temperatures. So you got to do what you got to do out here in the King of the Hammers. And guys, I know that you will be spooning if need be.
Oh,
I don't know about that.
We're not there, but
It's
nice
warm
to know,
here.
nice to know that Rob's going to be okay.
Yeah.
Well, you can see standing on the throttle right there, working their way through Spooners Canyon. Back out to Shannon Campbell, who's in first place. And talking about standing on the throttle, man, he is making tracks now.
Well, he's no big newcomer to this deal, and he definitely knows his way around it. And his game plan is working exactly the way he planned it. And right, like you said earlier, he's right in the driver's seat, right where he needs to be.
Methodical, slow. You have to take care of the equipment here. You also have to get over the obstacles. Sometimes you have to stand on the throttles. We saw Shannon Campbell do earlier. The idea is to try and miss some of those sharp points, and they use the sidewall of the tires as much as they use the footprint of the tire. As we go back to Greg Adler and the four-wheel parts machine.
Can you really imagine, though, honestly, after going through so many of these obstacle parts of this thing, how physically tough it can be on you? Man, I don't know if I can do it or not.
The king will be crowned when we come back. Stay with us here at Lucas Oil on the Edge.
This Lucas Oil on the Edge telecast is being brought to you by Lucas Oil, made in America, sold to the world. General Tire, anywhere is possible. Griffin Radiators, if you can drive it, we can cool it.
Here's a look from General Tire on the Rock and some of the action it took on at the King of the Hammers.
I gotta say, Ken, before we ever got here, when we were doing our studying and so forth for this event, in a million years, I would have never guessed the reason that that one area was called Spooners Canyon.
Leave it to Rob. He would find the answers to that one. As we go back to our leader here, Shannon Campbell, and Shannon's had a great run through here, but not without his fair share of problems. A couple of flat tires along the way, so everybody deals with adversity. You have to handle it, though, as quickly as possible. Jason Schur doing a great job as well, as he currently sits in third.
Yeah, and this is a good machine right here with Schur. As we look at Randy Schloss's machine, this is your fourth place machine, as both drivers in third and fourth do have co-drivers. Now, at the end of the day, my thought process is this. Yeah, it might be good if you get in a little bit of trouble, but at the end of the day, you're still carrying a couple hundred more pounds.
And you know, we heard it mentioned before as well, once again, Shannon Campbell here, but when you stand back and you look at this terrain, it blows you away. You just think to yourself, there is no way anything is driving through here. But to watch them come through and then negotiate their way through, it's amazing.
Yeah, certainly anything wheel driven. I mean, you know, you might think that maybe a quad, you know, a really high dollar quad might, as Shannon Campbell will come home your winner here today.
It is a big, big deal, so congratulations to him. Here's how it all shakes down. Tony Pellegrino hangs on to second, and Jason Shearer rounds out the top three.
Shannon Campbell coming to a stop here. The first repeat winner in King of the Hammers. You went back in 2008, the first two-time winner, I should say. A pretty brutal course out there, but for the lack of a better term, my friend, you put on a clinic here today.
Well, thanks. Like I said, I got lucky. There's a bunch of guys out there that Jason was passing me back and forth, and he must have turned it up a little too much and broke something. But no, thanks to everybody for all the help, and thank everybody for coming out here and watching me tear my junk up.
Pretty mellow guy.
A lot of fun. That's what it's all about.
1 year ago, Tony Pellegrino finished 14th at the King of the Hammers. This year, roll off 41st, 6 hours, 42 minutes and change. Here we are, second overall. Congratulations.
Thank you very much. It's awesome. This is a dream come true to be able to come to this race, compete with the best drivers in the world, 100 of them, and come in this well. I owe a lot of thanks to my wife, my lead fabricator, Darren, and all my sponsors. It's just unbelievable day.
That's what it's all about, and it is. It's not just one person, it's a whole team.
Jason Shearer crossing the line in third. It's been a pretty crazy day. We saw you out there battling with Shannon for the lead, and then all of a sudden something leaking in the rear end. What happened?
You know what? It was a great race. We really had fun out there the whole day. The battles were intense. I couldn't even believe how hard we were going back and forth. I mean, I've seen people pass each other and then you maybe get passed back, but this was like 3 or 4 times as hard as we could drive the cars. All the parts on the car worked good except for a couple little things, so we'll be back to get them next time.
Thanks for watching this episode of Lucas Oil on the Edge. For Ken Stout, Brian Olson, and Rob Klepper, I'm Sarah Daly. We'll see you next time with more competitive adrenaline-fueled motorsports. And remember, you're not living unless you're on the edge.